very successful in one of the trials this year, after again starting in Formula Ford 1600, which a great many drivers in Formula Ford Zetec of course did. Using the curbs then in Newport, with Noel Dunn getting ever bigger in his mirrors as they head very, very sideways through the climbing right-hander before coming back into the main stadium area to the S's. And it does look very much as though Newport and Dunn are where the action is. Newport still keeping the road closed. That looks like Richard Ryan's car parked. Indeed it is. And that means that Richard Ryan, who became a dad only a couple of weeks ago, can now go home and spend more time with the family, because he's not doing much more racing this afternoon.
Not exactly sure what happened. He, at the end of Motorfit corner, he just pulled into the side. I know that George McAlpin was challenging for that position. He's now, of course, up to 7th place. But we'll find out a little bit what exactly happened to Richard.
George and Richard running in the same team, but it's hardly team orders to make him park the car. Alan Ring, meanwhile, stroking away there. He now has a lead of 2 or 3 seconds over Raymond Wallace, but the battle is the 4th place one, with Ian Newport still hanging on there, but Noel Dunn swarming all over the gearbox, and that place is going to change, I suspect, before terribly long.
Oh, look at Noel Dunn absolutely crawling all over the curbs in his efforts to stay with Ian Newport. Ian Newport, very exciting newcomer this year. Formula V racer. He's just come up into this Premier single-seater class here in Ireland, Formula Ford Zetec, and he's showing some of the old hands how to do it. Noel Dunn right up his gearbox certainly isn't going to have it easy.
And Alan Ring, meanwhile, has reeled off a fastest lap just to prove that he really was trying and it was working. But Ian Newport, he hasn't had a lot of mechanical problems this year. He's finally got the car working, and 4th place at the moment is his reward. Robert Coleman's now made it up to 8th place behind George McAlpin, those two having passed some 8 or 9 cars to get where they are now. Alan Ring back into the S's. 5 laps gone, 5 laps still to run. The Van Diemen, a last year's car, not a 99 car, 98 one, because Alan preferred the handling of it. Working really well this afternoon. Raymond Wallace then behind him, but there's the battle for 4th place. Number 13 is Ian Newport. He's in a Van Diemen. Number 30 is Noel Dunn. He's in a Jamin, the only car of that make operating currently in Ireland. And those two might very well change places before long. They certainly will if Noel Dunn has anything to do with it.
Noel Dunn all over the curbs as he comes back into the paddock section. You don't want to be on the curb for too long there. If you're still on it just as the curb ends, you're probably going to spear off to the left, but he just held it, and he's still with Newport, so this is certainly an exciting battle.
These cars run very, very stiff suspension, of course, and any kind of a curb or a bump makes them jump around all over the place, and the driver really has to be on the case to do something about it. But if Noel Dunn gets any closer to the back of Newport's car, he's going to jump on top of it.
Well, Noel Dunn's certainly done great work with this Jamin chassis this year. Nobody really thought that this was a winning possibility, and he was in saloons, he was in the Italian saloons.
And it looks as though we've had possibly a change of 4th place. In fact, Noel Dunn has got past Ian Newport up at Motorfit corner. We didn't see it, but it happened just the same. And the two of them now, positions reversed, snaking around. Noel Dunn, having taken the place, has to protect it by going down the right-hand side of the road. And if Noel Dunn can now get a break ahead of Newport, then possibly Paul Dagg's 3rd place is under pressure, and that's something that Paul Dagg isn't going to want to see.
Well, Ian didn't want to give it away too easy, and Noel really had to defend. He was snaking under braking for the first corner, but I think he actually went round the outside into Motorfit. Oh, and
that's Philip Kershaw there losing his nose cone on the back of Michael Hill's car. Good little scrap going on there for 9th place. Michael Hill, Philip Kershaw, and it looks like John Gunning next in line of that lot. And we see that again. Kershaw closing in on Michael Hill as they go through Toyota corner, and the nose cone just clipping the back wheel of the car in front and flying off.
Well, I don't think Philip expected him to be quite so slow exiting that corner, and he just nudged the nose cone. But it's not going to be an aerodynamic issue. It's not going to have any effect on his performance.
They're gregarious things, Formula Fords. Alan Ring, though, is all on his lonesome out in front, just where he wants it to be, going through the S's. Raymond Wallace now a full corner behind him, and Paul Dagg happy to follow Raymond Wallace and take that 3rd place, and with it the points which will get him the title. But he must be wondering about Noel Dunn, because Noel Dunn is getting closer and closer and closer. 4 laps left to run. If Noel Dunn catches Paul Dagg, he won't have any scruples about trying to pass him, and Paul Dagg doesn't want to see that.
I don't think Paul would battle too hard with them. Talking to him before this weekend, he said if he's on pole, he'll definitely go for the win. If not, he has to think about championship considerations. And at this stage, I think he's shadowing Ray. I'm not exactly, I mean, not to do Ray a disservice. His pace is extraordinary this weekend, and we have to get this guy back out in the grid next year. He's obviously an exceptional talent. I know he made an attempt to go to England and then go to the States, and it didn't quite happen for him. Let's get him back out racing. He's great. But I think Paul Dagg is just shadowing him at this stage, and I don't expect too much shenanigans there.
And indeed, Raymond Wallace has just set the fastest lap, just to prove that he's an extremely quick gentleman indeed. That's the car driven earlier this year, of course, by Alan Kelly, and now run by him. But looking back down the top 10, McAlpin and Coleman seem to have stalled in 7th and 8th positions. The next person in front of them is Mike Klein, and he's quite a distance up the road for the two fighters through from the back. In the meantime, things staying fairly constant up front. Wallace lapping quickly for sure. Paul Dagg happy to follow in his wheel tracks and just keep a weather eye on the mirror to see if the hard charging Noel Dunn, curbs and all, can close up onto his gearbox. Dunn is now pulling away from Newport a bit, having fought his way through. But Alan must be really thanking his lucky stars, because this has been one of those races that a driver dreams of. You start from the front row and then you never see another car for the rest of it.
Yeah, the more boring the better is what most drivers want, starting from the front row. And I think for Alan this has been extremely straightforward. We haven't seen the car sliding out. He hardly goes near the curbs there, unlike some of the other guys. And look at the gap he's built up. Actually, Paul Dagg has now closed up a little bit on Ray Wallace. Interesting to see whether he proves me wrong and actually does think about having a stop.
Which would be perhaps not his best idea in the world, given the fact that the championship rests on it, and if Ray Wallace decides to resist at all, it could be curtains for both of them.
Ian Newport is still tagging Noel Dunn, and also noticed that Mike Klein is staying in touch there, and he's closing up a little bit on Ian. That should be interesting to watch.
Meanwhile, Robbie Coleman has gone past George McAlpin and claimed 7th place, so a good comeback drive there from the Cork man. But he's got quite a lot of empty road between himself and Mike Klein in 6th place, and he really is going to have to fly if he's going to make any impression on the car in front in the 2 laps remaining.
Yeah, Robbie Coleman is one of the stars of the future. A status motorsport driver, has had an exceptional first full season in car racing, and we have to get behind him as well. Exceptional driver. Yeah,
we just got a glimpse there of a good little scrap for 9th place between Michael Hill and Philip Kershaw. Philip, of course, lost his nose earlier on, but Michael so far has not lost his place. And Mike Klein is now starting to close up on Ian Newport, which is a bit of a turn up. Mike Klein in the oldest car in the race, a 1995 car, but there's good wine in old bottles.
Yes, Mike often comes up with some sterling performances that perhaps wouldn't have been expected at the beginning of the weekend. He's something of a stealth racer. You don't see him, but he's racking up the points, and he's had a great year.
So Alan Ring, completely untroubled. The 2nd place battle starting to look a bit like a battle. Wallace perhaps not going just as quickly as Paul Dagg would like. And meanwhile, Klein and Newport joining battle, so this race isn't over yet. There's another lap and 3/4 still to run, and it does look as though some people have a few territorial ambitions. And indeed, Klein has got past Newport and taken over 5th place. On the last lap then, Alan Ring heads down to Toyota Corner for the final time. He's got a lead of some 4.5 seconds over the next man. All he's got to do is guide it home at this stage. Raymond Wallace still protecting his 2nd place from Paul Dagg. In fact, Paul Dagg has found his way past Raymond Wallace, proving me wrong entirely, and it looks like Paul is going to try and take a better podium position along with that title.
1-2 in the championship are going to finish 2-1. He really did prove us wrong, didn't he? He had a stab. He decided he'd had enough of following Ray, and he's decided to have a go. At this stage, I think Alan Ring is going to have an excellent consolation of winning this most prestigious Leinster Trophy race here at Mondello Park this weekend. He's a former Formula Ford 1600 champion. He really had great thoughts of winning this year's Ford of Ireland Formula Ford Zetec championship. It's not going to be. Paul Dagg looks as if he's secure and running home to the title, and it's been an excellent year for him.
It's been an excellent year for Formula Ford Zetec, it must be said, with lots of different winners as well this year. Alan being one of, I think, around about half a dozen people who've won races during the course of the championship. And he really is underlining it with this demonstration drive in this final round. Ray Wallace hanging on grimly there in third place. Noel Dunn still a fair distance behind as Alan Ring goes through the long, long left-hand bend, which brings them down towards the paddock. He's got 2 more corners to do. The left-hander here with a couple of bumps on the exit. Alan turns in, Paul Dagg turns in, a short straight, and then it's Motorfit corner, and the sprint down to the line. Out of the final corner then, Alan Ring. Heading down towards the line, a fist raised in the air, the checkered flag is waved. The other 2 following him across the line, not very far up behind. I think Alan Ring eased